time for another round of Brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
Welcome back to another round of Brandy. Scott and I are here today. We talk about brands being empathetic or showing empathy towards their audience a lot. And so today we're kind of going to dive into what that means exactly.
And a little more focused too, I think, right?
Yeah, and looking at kind of the customer's journey with the brand and kind of what those steps are along the way and how a brand can kind of be empathetic from before the sale to during the sale and even afterwards.
Yeah, and it's really about, again, that idea of the business is transactional, brand is relational. And so this is kind of leaning a little more into that brand gets personal. Mm-hmm. It drills down to the individual that is looking at the brand for something, whether that's a product, a service, an experience, mm-hmm. right? So I think that's the type of thing that we're going to be addressing today is that when it comes to brand and harnessing the power of your brand, it's very important for the business side of things to be aware and be in kind of in tune and in touch with why is their customer even coming to them? What are the reasons behind that, and how can they meet their need? How can they connect with them emotionally based on whatever that reason is that they're engaging with them, right?
Yeah. And I see a lot with businesses where, thanks to big data and the internet and being able to have all this information about customers, they sometimes confuse personal with personalized or customized. Mm-hmm. Is that just because you can allow your customer to customize or personalize the offering, that doesn't mean it's going to be personal. There's a big difference in that. And I feel like thanks to technology is that now it's been like, oh, well, we let them customize it. We let them pick their options and do these things. We're being personal. And it's like, no, that's not quite what the brand should be doing.
Right. And that's drilling down to that personal application is more to that product or service, right? It's not that it's still the what you described to me is I see it as the what, whereas we're talking about the why.
Yeah.
Not the what, the why. And so a classic example would be if you are a plumber, if you're in the plumbing industry, you're going to have people come to hire you for services. Now, the plumber may just approach you going, "Hey, it's a flat rate. Here it is, and whether I'm fixing or whether I'm constructing doesn't mm-hmm. matter." And he focuses on what he does best, and it's a service-based business, and it works. But there's two different scenarios. There might be more, but there's two main scenarios that I see in this example where a person is coming because they want to remodel their bathroom. Therefore, they're going to hire a contractor and get in touch with them to assess their current layout and what they want to do, if they want to move the shower, and that the plumber will work with the client to provide that service.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a proactive, it's a forward-thinking, it's a desire. The customer has prepared to spend the money, right, to remodel. They're ready to do that. Now they're ready to actually implement. As opposed to someone calling the plumber saying, "I've got a busted pipe, and my kitchen is flooded." There's a different a mindset that the customer's coming for that service, and how that brand responds, mm-hmm. right? You're going to respond differently to each of those two scenarios of the why that customer's coming to you. And if it's a need out of desperation, it's something where they're going to be they're leery of the costs because they weren't planning on spending the money on repairs. They are obviously distraught with the disruption of their everyday lives. They are wanting as quick a possible turnaround and response. And, in their mindset, it may not be an emergency, but in their mindset, it is.
Yep.
And that is how a brand can proactively respond by knowing and kind of reading the roadmap, reading the room. Yeah. Why is this customer here right now? And how can I best serve them through demeanor, through responsiveness, through the customer service, right? And their approach. That can be a night and day experience. Same business, same brand, responding differently to two different customers. Right. And that's obviously an extreme. That's kind of what we're talking about.
Breaking it down then, those scenarios into before the purchase, how that person's approaching that decision, during it, and then afterwards. And that's really where the business can deploy the brand and allow it to get in the mind of the customer and how they're feeling in those different states, where it's like, okay, how are they feeling going in it? Like you said, it's like one could be a total urgent, freak out moment versus someone doing something good where they're excited about their new kitchen or the new bath or whatever, and they're excited about this improvement and they've been saving for it, and it's prepared. But then it's also up to the business. I think there's tons of opportunity for the business to realize this and then tailor those offerings or products to those different scenarios. Like you could approach it differently and how you interact with it, but actually tailor the entire thing to that specific person for that need.
Yeah. And really, we've talked in past episodes too about how brand and how it connects with an audience it's an experience, right? It goes beyond the transaction itself. And I think that's where we get into more of the, like, why is it important? Why do emotions affect experience?
Yeah.
And Reilly, I think you were going to take a little bit deeper dive into some of the needs behind that.
Right. And actually it reminds me of the old pencil trick. And this thing is actually, they've done tons of studies on it, and it's where you put a pencil in your mouth horizontally. Not all the way in, but you put it on through your mouth so that it's sticking out on either side. So it forces your mouth to make pretty much like the shape of a smile. And your body, it picks up on the experience of your mouth making this certain shape. And it goes, okay, this shape is associated with being happy. The body knows that from, when you're a small child. And so then it actually starts going, okay, there must be a reason why I'm happy. And it starts releasing chemicals that are related with happiness and, being in a joyful state. And so this, to me, it's very similar, where the experience is affected by the emotions and the feelings that someone's having during the experience. And the emotions can also be really dictated by a good or awful experience. And all of these things, these two sides of it, really do conjure together to then create that perception. And to me, it's like that's the crux of it, of understanding the importance of these. So let's just say we're going out to eat and I'm really grumpy, and we go there, and my grumpy attitude could ruin the experience, which then, impacts my perception of the entire, brand as a whole with that. In similar ways, like if I went somewhere and I had a really great attitude and something great happened, it's all good news during the day, and I go somewhere for dinner, then that experience could be enhanced by that. And overall, now I'm like, okay, this was a great experience. The small little, maybe missteps aren't as big as they could have been, or, it's totally different experience. And so that changed the perception. So when you think of even like the plumber scenario or whatever it could be, it's like how someone's, what they're feeling in that moment and how they're coming into the experience of working with your business, interacting with your employees or you, it's going to change that experience. So the best thing for a brand to do is to understand that and go, okay, what can we do to help kind of counteract some of these negative emotions? Mm-hmm. If someone is feeling urgent or stressed out, how do we balance that out, calm them down a bit, make them feel comfortable, make them feel heard, and then lead them into the experience? Or if it's a celebratory experience, or they're coming in very happy, then it's like, okay, how do we play off that? How do we enhance those and give them more of that?
Yeah, because the reality is, as a business, you can again, your brand can only do so much. You could provide great service. Yeah. If that person is having a great day, it's well received. If they're having a bad day, that it's affecting. That's on the user. That's on the audience. That's on the customer. It's their mental and emotional frame by which they are engaging with the brand, and that's where you could be great service, and they're still going to walk away unhappy. And there's scenarios where there's like that, and every person that's been involved in business or even customer service I've over the years, anytime where you have a customer that you have to deal with, and no matter what, they're not going to be happy. There's nothing you can do. You can provide the greatest, try to get the greatest thing out there. It's their filter. And there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah.
But, so in the end, I guess we're stressing this for you, the listeners, to understand that it works for you as a consumer, right? As human, you go in and you engage, and your frame, your emotional state affects things. Same thing with a relationship, a friendship, a marriage, whatever it is, right? We all have emotions gear us through the day. And as we interact with people, as we interact at our job, with our own customers in our job, but then as consumers, we're out engaging with brands, it affects a lot. So keeping in mind from the business standpoint, yes, you can't control the customers. You can't control how they're feeling, but you can try to overcompensate a bit, or at least be aware and attune and try to pivot, because that will, in the end, you'll be, in a sense, above reproach as a brand, knowing, hey, we did everything we could. They weren't going to be happy, and that's okay. But on the average, you can, with an intuitive approach and understand you might have different customers coming to you for different reasons, then lean into that as a brand.
Yeah. And really, it's like, that's why when you do look at advertising, humor is so prevalent, because humor is one of the things that can pierce through, whether someone is, they're watching Super Bowl and you have all these funny ads, all those brands lean into that, because humor is the one thing that can actually pierce through someone having a bad day or a good day. Humor is something that actually can elevate those things, but it's not like you can do humor things or humorous things all the time. So it's like, there's certain ways to help doing that, but like Scott said, it's like sometimes they're just a lemon.
Trust me, if you see a Christian Dior commercial, it's never going to be parody and funny. So again, funny is a powerful tool, but it may or may not align with your brand and your brand's personality. And so with anything that you're, whether it's anything that comes out of the mouths of Reilly and I, or any books you're reading or any other podcast you're listening to about branding, always, there's no set recipe, because every brand's different, and it's what it's offering, and trying to be distinct, right? If what we preach could be to the letter prescribed, like a doctor, do this, boom, success, then we're kind of going against what we preach, which is you're going to be like with the masses, and that's what everyone else does. So therefore, fit right along in, follow this recipe, and you will be a average brand.
And if it was easy, everyone would do it. And it wouldn't work. Like Scott said, it would be broken. But that's also what makes it special, is that even taking this framework and going, okay, look at your customer journey and go, what is that initial, when someone engages with us? How are they coming to us? Are they frustrated? Are they, freaked out? Are they in pain? Or is it like aspirational, where they're trying to achieve something and grow to something? And you look at even something as simple as, Advil. It's like Advil is solving a pain. It's a specific headache, whether that's in the present where you go to the store and like, oh man, I'm out of Advil and I need to go buy this and it's urgent, or you're being proactive and going, hey, I'm probably going to have a headache, sometime in the next couple of weeks.
I'm going to be doing some yard work for, half the day. I might pop an Advil or two, to help the knees over the course of the day,
And it's proactive, right? And so that's no different than the plumber, where it's like, okay, I'm preparing for this expense or this purchase, and I'm thinking ahead. And when you get in the mind of then your audience and going, okay, what words do we need to use to help them, realize that, or support them on that journey, whether it's proactive or in the moment.
Yeah. Another, like, just a tangible, example of where the brand can be proactive and turn around an experience and captivate and capture that experience is, let's say, a dentist. People don't like dentists. Some people do. Most people, the thought of the drill, the sound of the drill while they're in the waiting room, they get in, they're nervous, they're sitting in a chair. Yeah, someone is like, deep cave exploring your mouth. It's obtrusive, it's invasive, and particularly for children, it can be very problematic. It can be kind of like that first haircut, right? For kids, going to the dentist, first haircut, guy with scissors, going near your face. Most kids cry, they freak out. How a dentist or how a barber chooses to deal with that situation with turning around and making it very fun. Some dentists will have hand puppets with the receptionist while they're doing entertainment, balloon, whatever. Or barber, I've seen ones where barbers would like make be silly and goofy or sing song, and it eases the kid that's crying. He feels like he's laughing, and all of a sudden it makes it more an enjoyable experience. And then that brand, that person, that consumer's experience, in this case the children, but it could be the same for an adult, taking a potentially bad experience or one that they are unease with, making it positive, making it encouraging, then transitions and really translates that experience into a positive one that is connected with the brand. So now when the kid's like, hey, we're going back to the barber, he's like, yeah, I like him. He's funny. He's goofy. He whatever. He sings me silly songs, or I get a lollipop while I'm doing whatever it is, right? It's something positive that they want to go back for. And it was negative, but they turned it around.
Well, and it's powerful because even you look at, a dentist as a brand, that's a category in our mind, and we have a perception about dentists, just like you have perceptions about, firefighters and the police and all these things, and those experiences and those feelings during that, it's like that child then has a totally different perception of dentists in general, where, oh yeah, it's not scary, it's just something you do. It's like brushing your teeth. It's like they have these tools for these specific reasons. They're not trying to hurt you, and it helps create that meaning and that value, and then they see the positive value of it. But also it's like you said, taking something negative and using that to then go, okay, how do we salvage this and then make it something better where the kid or the customer wants to come back and goes, oh no, I actually enjoyed that. Yeah. That's, I didn't want to bring it up, but Disneyland does that with wait times, where they not only make the waiting engaging with the atmosphere and the different things you can interact with and look at, but also the wait times is that they exaggerate them. So it says, 45-minute wait when it's always actually shorter than that. So then the pain and the, struggle of being impatient and waiting is then met with, oh wow, that was actually way quicker than what I thought. Yeah. And that reflects, much better on Disney then.
Yeah. So I remember one time, it's funny because you mentioned, Disneyland, and it made me think of like, I don't know any other amusement park that just does queues, ride queues, the queue line that you're waiting, the long one that loops around back and forth through the stuff. That does it so well because there's so many details to look that's very entertaining. I think of Indiana Jones, right? The Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland. And or Haunted Mansion or anything where you're walking through the graveyard. And I remember one time we caught Indiana Jones when there was hardly any line, and we were just like fast walking through the whole queue. And I'm like, I want to can we slow down, because I love this. It's it's creative. And there's detail. There's little things to notice. There's all these little details. In fact, this little side bit, I saw this on an Instagram reel. They're hidden. So in the queue for Indiana Jones ride, if there was a flashlight, or if one of the guys had a flashlight, they could flash it up. There's one part where there's a shelf and there's all these old things on there. And on the back is an old metal sign with a old picture of Eeyore on it. Oh, weird. That is actually one of the parking signs for when Disneyland had their character parking lot, and that is the Indiana Jones ride resides in the Eeyore parking lot. Oh, wow. So the old Eeyore parking sign, it was actually made as a secret part of the Indiana Jones queue, that if you're not sit there waiting 45 minutes to get on the ride, you wouldn't see. And it's up in a dark corner, but it's there. Yep. And you if you're crafty enough, you can see it. And that type of attention they didn't have to do that, but they did. And that's what I love about those things. Again, they're making the best of a popular ride with a very long wait time. Yep. Usually when I go, it's like 90 minutes. You're like, geez, try to fast pass it. But again, they didn't have to do the expense, but they did. Yeah. And it's because they know the brand knows how to meet the audience as best they can where they're at.
Yeah. And that's even, you think of, speaking of like wait times, like even when you're downloading something or waiting for something to load on your computer, they have like loading bars or little spinning devices that look like something's loading or anything like that. And all of those are essentially just made up. Like they're not real, they're not accurate. They just pretty much make you feel like, okay, this thing's at least moving forward, because that's what someone's wanting to feel the entire time they're waiting, is like, I want this to feel that it's progressing, because if not, then they start getting frustrated, they start getting antsy. And in the context of your business, it's going, okay, are there times where in communication with a customer or a client, are there lulls or are there areas where they have to wait? Then, it may be beneficial to give updates or to give some type of progress that actually helps them feel like things are progressing and moving forward, and they're not just stuck in this limbo. And it's mainly you think about, you don't want to feel that way. You don't like to feel that way when you're just kind of just waiting and in a lull and you haven't heard anything or there's lack of communication. So it's like that empathy where the brain can go, okay, how is someone actually feeling in this moment? It's like when you take your car in to get worked on, and when you're waiting, like, okay, what's the problem, right?
Yeah.
You kind of got that cliffhanging feeling of like, oh my gosh, is this gonna be thousands of dollars for repair? Like, what's this gonna be? And so maybe there's something that can help kind of pad that experience where it's a little less cold.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you mentioned, it made me think of like smog check. You're like, oh God, please pass smog.
Yeah.
Don't come back saying there's something wrong. I didn't pass, It's like, if there's anything they could do to just kind of make people more at ease in the waiting room while they're getting their smog check, things like that, where it's just like, know that people, when they're getting, what's their state of mind?
Yeah.
And again, all of this goes beyond the scope of probably why, if you're a business owner and listening to us, why you got into business, right? You do it because either A, you found a niche in the market where there's a product that no one's really doing, or you want to bring a better product, but go along, toe to toe with some of the other competitors, or you have a service that, whatever it is you're bringing to market, you've made a choice to bring it to market, but you probably haven't thought that you need to anticipate or be in touch with the emotional state of mind of the people that you're trying to sell to, or trying to market to.
And that even goes into, after the purchase as well, as after someone, buys your product or your offering, then it's like, okay, how do they feel after that? Is there, like, there's always buyer's remorse. That's very common, unless it's, a small little widget you're selling. But even that, you buy something $20 on Amazon and it's a letdown, you're still feeling, let down. But when the investment's larger, there's always that little drop that someone feels. And so how do you help them, kind of build that up, make them feel a little better and more confident about their purchase, and even just reassurance of showing, after they buy with you, then send an email that has other customers, their positive reviews or something like that, where it just kind of builds up that potential negative experience of them going, man, I just spent $500 on this or whatever it is. And I wish even some basic industries would do that more. Like when you buy new tires or anything like that, where it's like, okay, you're dropping good money on some of these things and now you're driving around on them, maybe supporting them and going, hey, these tires, it's a safer ride for your family or for you as a person or whatever it could be. Like supporting their decision in that and reassuring them of their decision. As I think about it, a lot of the core of these issues, of these emotions that your client or a customer may be facing when they're doing business with you, it's like the core of it is really a lot of uncertainty. The uncertainty of waiting, not knowing how much time until it's your turn for the appointment, or the price, the total at the end of the day, or anything like that, or even just communication. If someone hires you for a service job and you're not communicating clearly, there's an unknown variable now introduced where they're not hearing from you. You're kind of just, in the dark doing your thing, and now it's uncertainty for them. And, the same thing goes for after the purchase, where you have an uncertainty about, did I make the right choice? And I think what's hard is that there's never this for sure answer. And that's where brand comes in, where you can have businesses that virtually sell the same thing. One might do it slightly better or have slightly different features. But the brand comes in, and that's that reassurance of like, okay, no, I know I made the right choice for myself because I really like that brand. I really like the way they do that, or the way they look, or the way, it really makes me feel, because it agrees with who I tell myself I am in my internal narrative. So it's like that reassurance is there thanks to the brand, and it effectively removes that uncertainty. With any of your favorite brands, it's like you buy it, and you're not uncertain about it. You just go, of course I'll get it when it comes out. Like I might wait a little, but I'm definitely going to get it because I just love everything this brand does, and it totally aligns with my lifestyle.
Yeah, I think one thing to just remember is that when as your brand it empowers your business to be more personal, it's gonna not only benefit your customers, but it can actually give you some crucial information for your business. As you learn about your buyers and continue to move forward as a business. Again, it's not, the idea with your business is you always want to grow. The idea about your brand is that you always want it to be growing and moving forward. So the more you flex this muscle, this idea that the more personal you can be with your customers, you will you will be kind of creating more like a kind of a feedback loop. You know, it's one of those things that just, it's like momentum, it's inertia. It's like moving that rock, and once it starts rolling, or a snowball, one of those things that once you start doing it, because the more you know about your audience and what makes them tick, right, and the different scenarios by which it makes them tick, the more you're going to be able to apply that knowledge and that insight to then reach them better and better. And it creates it creates a snowball effect.
It kind of reminds me of, everyone's probably familiar with like the love languages, where it's like, even with my kids, where I'll learn, okay, you know, this one responds more to this kind of feedback, and this one responds more to this or these incentives, or they want to be recognized in different ways. And of course, you learn that with your spouse too, where you go and you try out something and you get rewarded, or you go, oh, they responded really well to that. And then it becomes a positive feedback loop, because then you know next time, oh, if I approach whatever, this issue, or I approach asking my kid to pick up the room in this way, they respond a whole lot better, because you're in their mind, and you're being really like, you're being empathetic of this is how they prefer to be talked to or interacted with, and they respond better this way. So it's like, even with the business, like Scott was saying, is as you do this and kind of test out different ways of doing it, you learn more about your audience and who they are and their situation, because then you can really lean into that and go, okay, for this specific situation that we serve, they have these feelings. And if we approach it where we're not coming in, too cold or too, fluffy or anything like that, it's like you can learn to say things a certain way, to behave a certain way, to everything about it. It's like you can give more value to them, where not only throughout the service they see the value, but then afterwards they feel that much better about it. Yeah. If the biggest takeaway from this episode is for you guys is that brand is about perception, and perception is governed by emotions and by experiences. And so, again, how your brand is perceived by your audience is heavily dependent on their frame of reference, their frame of mind, and their expectations. Yeah. And so if you have in marketing your brand and in preaching from the mountaintops your brand and its attributes, if you've overpromised, and because all you're concerned about is making that sale, you don't care a hoot whether they're happy or not. You just made that sale. That's all you're about. That's your business model. Okay, well, more power to you, but you're never gonna have a great brand. You may have a successful business. I don't know, but you won't have a great brand, because you're ignoring the importance of being of spend just as much time and energy before the transaction as you do after the transaction, right? And maintain a relationship, one that is it's positive for the consumer. They feel good about it. That you are an asset in their life as a brand, and one they want to come back to support, to share, to recommend. That is where the true power of your brand is going to be harnessed when it comes to its perception. Yeah, and that's totally spot on, because if you kind of just transact with people, they're not going to want to like pass on your name, or really, put their name on the line by going, hey, you should check out this company, or work with them. There's none of that. And I think that's kind of where these businesses will cut themselves short, where it's like you're so focused on that transaction and earning that dollar. You need to do that to stay alive, but it's also like you're not looking ahead at the ramifications of only doing that. You're leaving money on the table, and you're cutting yourself short by not extending that emotional kind of investment in the relationship. Again, going back to the feedback loop, is like, once you start doing this, you start getting more and more where you benefit from referrals. You benefit from so many different areas where your sales process will become more accurate. Your marketing will become more relevant. You'll become more impactful in everything you do, rather than just focusing on the business side of it and not actually getting in the minds of your buyer, because to them you're just going to be just another vendor. Yeah. Well, I think we've broached this subject enough for one round of
cocktails. So I think we will we'll end it on this note as my glass is getting dry. So guys, thanks again for always. We appreciate your patronage, and we look forward to you tuning in to the next episode. Thanks so much. Cheers.